Yeah, so one of the Jordan stories that I did a deep dive on that I really enjoyed was when he first got found at Five Star Camp. So he was a rather unknown at this point. I think it was his junior year, and he ended up going to the UNC camp. And Roy Williams was like, "Oh my gosh!" And so was Dean Smith. Like, we can't let him go out anywhere. Like, he is the prized possession. And Roy Williams actually kind of went against Dean Smith and got him into the Five Star Camp in, I think it was Pittsburgh, that year. And Jordan goes, and at that point, he was just so nervous in terms of, he's like, I think the quote was, "I'm just a small town boy out of like Wilmington, North Carolina. Like, what am I doing here with the best of the best?" So he was like doubting himself, and he had just dominated the UNC camp. It obviously wasn't the Five Star camp that he was going to now, but he doubted himself. And then he realized, like, as soon as he saw everyone playing, he's like, "Oh, I'm the best one here." Or he always had that confidence. I think at first it was a little bit of a false bravado, but his inner voice wasn't always that false bravado that came out at that point. He was a little nervous, and then he just completely dominated the camp. But the reason he dominated the camp was because he had done all the work before. He was obsessive with the amount of practice and what he did, and just he loved to compete. He loved to compete overall. And what that story really signified for me is, number one, like, even he had that voice in his head. And who knows how long, I mean, we don't hear that voice now today, but how long was that voice actually in his head? Did it change after he hit that shot at UNC? When did that change? But he had that voice at some point. So we can all grow in to our own voice as well. And then the other thing is just the proof of, just do the work, compete, and over time it starts to change. You don't suddenly become a success overnight. It happens over time in terms of being willing to sit down and do the work.
One of my favorite Jordan things too is from that same book, Driven from Within. His mom was actually quoted in the book saying, because there's always a question like, what was Jordan like as a kid? Like, he must have been, just maniacal with his work and preparation, all that. And his mom was like, no, like, if Jordan didn't end up playing basketball, like if he ended up in some 9 to 5 or something, like he was super lazy. Like, if it was up to him, he'd be watching TV all day long. Like, he was incredibly lazy as a kid, but he always loved to play. And so that's why like basketball stuck around, because in the early days it was like, oh, this, like, I'm just playing basketball, like this is just a game. And then obviously over time it evolved into what it was. But that was interesting to think about, that like Jordan, even the holy Jordan was never like, wasn't always the Jordan. They didn't always have that same killer mindset.